What's up, Cougs? I'm your host of Unorthodox Sports here on KUGR's YouTube channel and on KUGR's airways. Noah Bolter, great to be with you guys today. We show you what the others cannot. We have so many exciting and honestly kind of depressing topics to talk about today, unfortunately. I hate to say it, but it was just a bad weekend for our show. The Seahawks lost to a team we shouldn't have lost to in the New York Giants. The Cougars, of course, got humiliated on the road at USC. And then the Pittsburgh Steelers as well. Our very own Asher Line is a fan of the Steelers, and their undefeated season comes to a crashing burn. If you are tuned in on our YouTube channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button below for a great show today. And if you're listening on the airways, go look us up on YouTube. Everyone's got YouTube, right? Go look us up and subscribe to our YouTube channel, KUGR Radio on YouTube. All right, so I'm not alone to do the show today. With me today on my left shoulder, Mr. Asher Line himself. Asher, great to have you on the show.
Great to be here. Won't be as great to talk about the Steelers this week, but that's okay. Still happy to be here with you guys. Let's get going.
Absolutely. Got a little 5 o'clock shadow going on there, man. Looks like you've had a rough night.
Yeah, it's been one of those nights. I'm at my home setup right now. It's the lighting's not great, but we got it. We'll figure it out.
Very handsome, nevertheless. Aaron, let's go to you on my right shoulder. Aaron, you do look especially dapper today. A little bit extra glimmer in your eye. Aaron, great to have you on the show.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, dude, awesome to be here. I'm just so excited to talk about the Steelers' loss Asher today. I could definitely tell by just the tone of his voice at the opening that he's kind of sad. But Asher, if you ever start to feel sad, just look at my background and see how happy that picture will make you. See this? How can you not be happy when you see this? That does make me
pretty happy. To be fair, your background's 10 times out of 10 making me happy. There's not a bad picture. There's not a bad picture of Shaquille O'Neal.
There really isn't. There really isn't.
No, there's not.
No, that's fair. Santa and Shaq, I can't think of two better things that start with S.
Exactly.
Let's start today by talking about, let's take a moment, and at the beginning of the season, the NFL season, when the Seahawks were undefeated, and until this past week when the Steelers were undefeated, I made sure to say, at least for the Seahawks, that we need to enjoy this moment. And the same thing was said for the Steelers while they were undefeated. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we will talk about our depressing NFL woes in just a little bit, but Wazoo men's basketball is 3-0, baby, on top of the Pac-12 for the time being. 3 not too impressive wins, but still, we are 3-0, we are undefeated, and we are on top of the Pac-12 as of right now, and we're playing team ball. It's great to see. Fellas, I want to get your thoughts on the current state of Wazoo men's basketball. Asher, let's go to you first.
I like what I've seen so far. There's not a lot to complain about when you're 3-0, and I think partly you can draw a lot of comparisons to the Steelers when they were undefeated. You know, a lot of people were talking about all these things that the Steelers do wrong, and I feel like you can draw some tangents over to the men's team. We've been talking about how Isaac Bonton doesn't shoot it very well, how they have to rely on Abogidi, the new freshman, to come in and be their leading rebounder. They need some more production from Markovetsky, some other guys, etc. So being 3-0 definitely has its perks, but film will show you that they're not perfect technically. And so I think they have a lot of room for improvement, but being on top of the Pac-12 is definitely something to be proud of, thanks to that USC loss a little bit ago. But definitely good start for them, for sure.
Aaron.
Yeah, no, I could not agree with you more, Asher. Bonton's just been sucking. He's absolutely garbage lately, and it's
putting it bluntly right off the bat.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Let's go.
He's playing like trash. He throws up garbage shots, and he'll make the occasional once in a while. And he had an okay game than the last one against Oregon State, right, where he played fine. But it's just relying on Abogidi, who's just more reliable and more consistent down in the paint. And Abogidi can shoot the ball great for a big dude, which is awesome. I love seeing that from the big guy. And it's just frustrating that Bonton is the only guy we can start for, on our point guard spot. And I don't remember, a few years ago, we had a power forward / center kind of guy named by the name of Josh Hawkinson. Asher, were you here when he was around?
No, but I know who he is. He went professional in he went overseas.
Japan.
Japan.
Yeah,
yep,
and
that's what it was.
When I was in middle school / I was in middle school, he's my favorite guy in the Cougs, right? Because he like he wore knee braces just like I did. So I was like, oh my god, dude, that's so crazy. And so like I sent him a letter, like a fan letter or whatever, and he sent one back to me with an autographed picture of him, and I sent an autographed picture of me playing basketball like in middle school. I thought it was pretty funny. But anyway, like so like we have each other on Instagram, and like I follow him, and I don't know if he follows me or not, but I slide up on his Instagram stories once in a while. And he'll respond, or I'll send him a DM and he'll respond. And I was talking to him like, hey, dude, our point guard bench has no depth, and he's like, yeah, I totally agree. So like it was just cool having somebody who understands the game and Wazoo basketball like Josh Hawkinson respond to something like that.
Yeah, someone who was on the team will definitely pay a lot closer attention to a lot of other people, and to have him agree with that is really, really cool.
Yeah, it is cool, but it also like just proves our point where Bonton needs to do better and shoot the ball better.
Yeah, I don't think anyone is questioning whether or not he needs to do better, because the numbers and the eye test both tell us clearly he needs to do better. But I think it's more of a question of like what we were talking about last week. Like, do you bench him right now and let him come off the bench, or do you keep starting him?
No, he. There's an argument to be had for both sides of things. He's quick to pull up at times, and he's quick to create his own shot, and a little bit slow to create shots for other people at times. But we're 3-0.
Okay.
As of right now, and his last game was not the worst game he's ever played. So moving forward, there are bright things and bright signs for Wazoo men's basketball. Now let's go to the other side of the moon for this one, because not a lot of good things to say about Wazoo's game at USC this past weekend for men's football, which was a pretty embarrassing performance, to be honest. Amon-Ra St. Brown had himself a field day in the first quarter with 4 touchdowns just off the bat. Wazoo started off slowly offensively and defensively. It was a blowout the whole way through. Easily our worst game of the season, and it leaves a lot to wonder about moving forward, and lots to improve on moving forward for this week. I want to get your guys' reactions to the debacle at USC. Let's flip the order now. Aaron, let's go to you first.
Dude, I'm depressed. I think I stopped watching at halftime, to be completely honest with you, or even after the first quarter. We were down 28-0, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna go do homework. That was legit what I did, but I went back and watched some highlights and like the few points that we did score, the touchdown in the fourth quarter, and dude, that was just an embarrassing game. Do you know how many rushing yards the USC had this entire game?
Didn't they have like 5?
5, exactly 5 rushing yards. Mm-hmm. We had 73. They had 282 passing yards and 190, and we had 190 passing yards. To be fair, we didn't really give up that many yards. 287 total yards. Not a bad job. But they scored 28 points in the first quarter. That's not okay. Our defense played like garbage, and Delora threw the ball at times when he shouldn't have. Like, I didn't think we used our running backs enough that first quarter. Like, just because our running game was not there, and when Delora threw the ball, it just went automatically into like the Trojans' hands. It was just frustrating to watch. Basically, that's not what I expected from that game. Granted, USC is number 20, but we have played a killer first half against Oregon, who was number 13 at the time we played them, something like that. I don't know, man. It just seemed like we weren't trying. Our defense wasn't there at all.
I believe they were 11th. Asher, let's get your thoughts on the state of Wazoo football.
Yeah, I think Oregon was 11th, and they did play a really good first half. I remember calling that game those 3 turnovers, and I think with that, we've seen, I think for the first couple games, like the win versus Oregon State and in the first half against Oregon, we've kind of seen Washington State's ceiling as far as things are concerned. Like, they have guys like Aiden Hector on defense who can make plays, and we all know what Delora can do. But I think this game against USC, we were kind of shown the floor of Washington State. Like, Delora kind of proved himself. He is a true freshman playing in Pac-12, and he kind of had those moments. And there's definitely talent behind that arm. Don't get me wrong, but I think we definitely saw the floor here for sure. And I think the numbers would support that theory. Giving up 28 in the first quarter to those loaded receivers we were talking about, they were all 1 or 2 in California, and St. Brown definitely proved that. Just had a clinic as far as I'm concerned with those 4 touchdowns. But I think moving forward, there's definitely a lot to get from this game. But yeah, defensively, they've just got to fix things up. But that was one of the things we were talking about, winning your matchups. Like, you cannot let one person torch you for 4 touchdowns. like let alone in the first quarter. Like if someone gets 4 touchdowns for a game, like that's pretty impressive. Excuse me. But when you give up 4 touchdowns to one guy in the first quarter, something's going on. Something's going wrong.
Those are mad numbers.
That immediately.
And especially the fact that this was one of my keys, and I'm pretty sure it was one of your guys' keys heading into the game too. We just have to slow down their air attack. I mean, it sounds a lot easier than it is. Just slow down their air attack with Keaton Slovis, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Drake London and some of these guys. Just explosive. You mentioned it, not so many yards because we had turnovers early on in the ball game. Jaden Delora gave up the ball twice in the first quarter, interceptions. And with both of those interceptions, they were kind of throws where it looked like he was forcing it a little bit. Honestly, it looked a little bit like Russell Wilson this past Sunday at times. And that's what we've seen from Russell Wilson as of late throughout this drought. And remember a couple weeks ago when we had those professional comparisons to some of Jaden Delora's characteristics. And remember, we compared his arm to Matthew Stafford because he's got that little sidearm and he's got a deep ball. But I compared his eyes to Baker Mayfield. And I'm not talking about the Baker that threw 4 touchdowns in the first half against Tennessee. I'm talking about the Baker we've seen for the rest of his career. And unfortunately, I feel like that showed at USC this past week. So unless you guys have anything else you want to add to the USC talk, I'd be happy to turn the page on this one.
I would too. I think everyone including us needs to move on from that game.
Okay, well, a great way to move on is our upcoming game this Saturday versus Cal. We have an opportunity against Chase Garbers, the team that just knocked off Oregon, to really get back on track after they just had their first win of the season against Oregon, too. We were in a game with Oregon. We have a lot to prove after what just happened last week. Let's talk about this matchup and what we need to do in order to be successful. I'm going to ask you guys for your keys to the game versus Cal. Aaron, let's go to you first.
So I wrote down 2 keys for the Cougars for this week for them to do well. Number 1 is going to be just a much stronger start for our defense. Our defense, just as soon as we got onto the field against the Trojans, didn't seem like they were trying very hard. It just seemed like minimal effort, and that there was just hardly anything going for them. And so I think going into this game confident is going to be good for the Cougars for the defense. And just getting a stronger start, just thinking about going back to Oregon, just having another start like that can help us play better, just mood and everything. Another key is so when Jaden Delora threw those 2 picks and how he had to get rid of the ball so quickly, I think it was because he just didn't have enough time in the pocket for part of it. So I think our O-line needs to create a little bit more time in the pocket for Jaden Delora to look around the field and make some better throws to just continue getting first downs and showing off his arm and everything.
That's fair. I agree with those points. Asher, let's go to you.
Yeah, I would agree with that point. That's not something I had, but that kind of keys in to my first one, which is getting more confidence in Jaden Delora, because when a true freshman makes throws like that, that's got to be a mental game at that point. And so when the O-line is able to give him more time and he can make those deep throws like we saw against Oregon State and a little bit against Oregon, then that'll give him even more confidence. O-line will get more chemistry. They can get rolling things, etc. And I think that'll be good for the entire team moving forward. And then the other key, I said it last week, just secondary, just win your matchup. You don't have to win every single time because you're going to get burned by a good route runner every so often. There's always going to be someone faster than you, etc. But the matchups against USC were just awful, and we saw that with St. Brown scoring 4 touchdowns. Secondary's got to pick it up, I think, in my mind. That's going to be my key for every game until I see improvement from them.
Yeah, no, lots of ways that we need to improve after what just happened last game. For my keys of the game, I'm going to talk some about what Wazoo did wrong against USC, but I'm also going to talk about what how Cal was so fortunate as to beat a team like Oregon. Because you talk about a ranked team like Oregon and a team that hadn't won a game in Cal. How did Cal beat Oregon? Turnovers. To be frank, there were turnovers throughout the game for Oregon that cost them. There were penalties, 3 penalties on a drive. It was a 19-play drive. I believe it was 90 yards, and it had penalties that extended it multiple times, penalties that turned it from no points to a field goal to a touchdown. And if Wazoo has these kind of penalties against Cal, we're not going to be able to beat them, in my opinion, especially with the way that our defense just played against USC. We struggled through the air, and that's where Chase Garbers likes to take over against teams, and he was doing a good job against Oregon, that's for sure. And that's why we need to stop the pass defensively, really key in on not getting beat down the field and stop getting beat in one-on-one the way St. Brown was doing to us. And then offensively, I think the way that we need to help Jaden Delora even more is to continue to rush the football. We need to get more than 73 yards in a game, and that's going to be about game plan, but that's also going to be a sign of what you guys are talking about, especially you, Aaron, not falling behind early, because when you're behind in a ball game, you're not able to run the football as much, and that if we're able to stay ahead, we're going to get more rush yards. So let's stay ahead, let's get rush yards, let's stop the pass, and let's win the turnover and win the penalty battle, if at all possible. Those are my keys for the game. Anything else you guys want to add?
I think that's just
I think we kind of went over everything that I was thinking. Yeah.
Cool. Well, in that case, the Seattle Seahawks this past weekend had a very embarrassing loss. It feels like we're going like from bad story to bad news to reaction to depression to it's just for those of you who aren't Cougar fans and aren't Seahawk fans, this is probably very entertaining. I know from when I like to watch other teams fans after they struggle, and players after they lose a big game. We'll get into that. We're gonna save the best for last. We're gonna start with the
best for last. I want to hear you repeat that again. The best. The last.
The most entertaining.
That's fair.
For last.
That seems like reasonable.
So the Seahawks lost this past week, and it was interesting. It was interesting. Real quick before we even get into the Seahawks, we do have to point out the Sounders just won the Western Conference, and we're going to the championship. We have an opportunity after. First of all, what a beautiful comeback, Rui Diaz. Aaron has the Sounders scarf.
Gotta wrap
Flexing
up
this real fast. There we go. Yep.
With him right now.
Big flex.
That's beautiful. Down 2 points in the final 15 minutes of the match, and turning it around in extra minutes to win the game. Just incredible how the Sounders were able to respond. I do want to get your guys' thoughts on that before we get to the Seahawks. Aaron, let's go to you first.
Dude, I like I said, I mean, I'm not a big soccer guy. I never really have been, but knowing that we have a solid team in Seattle just makes me feel better about not having a basketball team, to be honest with you. But like going back to the MLS Cup 2 years in a row and knowing that because we won it last year, and there's a solid chance that we'll win it again this year. So like, dude, just scarves up, go Sounders all the way.
And if we do, it's going to be in a Dodgers over Braves kind of style, like down 3-1, down 2-0.
Yeah.
Just in the
it was a totally it was a totally unexpected win. Like you said, we were down 2 goals with 15 minutes left, and then we just pulled it out of our butts. Dude, it was crazy. But I'm stoked. I'm gonna be watching that game. But yeah, just go Sounders.
When LeBron won his first championship, it was after being down 3-2 to Paul Pierce and the Celtics in the conference finals and winning that Game 6 on the road. So to take it from someone that you hate and to win the big one, knowing that you shouldn't have even been in that game, if the Sounders were able to get it done, I liken it to that. I liken it to the Seahawks beating the Niners in the NFC Championship game before going on to win the Super Bowl. Had the Niners... The Super Bowl that year was in the NFC Championship game. And had the Niners won, they would have gone on and beat the Broncos, in my opinion, just the same. So the fact that we're taking it from someone else and have an opportunity to go win it, if we had no business winning that conference championship game and are able to go on and win the championship, that just feels so much better.
Yeah. To be honest with you, Noah, before you give Ash's opinion, I'm just so upset you had to bring LeBron into this.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think you spoiled the moment there. I saw.
Dude, it's like I don't even want to wear this anymore. It's just.
Look what you did, Noah. Look what you did.
You poor Celtics fans. Let's go to you, Celtics fan Asher. What was your reaction to the Sounders winning and advancing to the championship?
I'm in the same boat as Aaron. I'm not as big of a soccer fan. I don't really follow MLS a lot more or as much as NBA, NFL, what have you. But seeing them go, seeing the tweet that they were going back, it makes me think, okay, Seattle has got some pretty good sports teams. The Storm just winning everything. The Sounders, like you said, winning it last year. So Seattle's definitely got a really great sports culture, and I think the Sounders going back in the fashion that they won that game definitely is improving that culture. And on that note, like you kind of mentioned, Aaron, we need to bring the Sonics back. Are you with me, fellas? I think the Sonics need to come back.
I actually posted a video about that on my YouTube channel a couple weeks ago. A little shameless self-promotion, DJ Squabble on YouTube, Squabo, and how I think that the most realistic team to come to Seattle, I feel like it wouldn't be an additional team. I feel like it would be a relocated team. The Milwaukee Bucks. Minnesota's a close too, in my opinion. But I think if Giannis leaves Milwaukee, their ratings, we're not even going to get into this, but their ratings in terms of with an MVP on their team and the fact that they can't make the finals, even with an MVP, that tells the NBA that what happens when they don't have that MVP anymore and when Giannis leaves and they can't get any other free agents. Why not move that to a better market that wins a lot of championships? Just a little food for thought.
There's an argument there.
All right, but the Seahawks, let's talk about that devastating loss. Now back to sad stuff.
Talk about that.
We had championship fun for a moment, but now the Seahawks lost. Offense wasn't able to score many points at all. 12-17 final score. Unable to execute on the last drive. And honestly, throughout the game, we were up 5-0 at halftime. In the second half, we gave up 14 points in the third quarter and just they never looked back. We were never able to fully come back in that ball game. Aaron, I want to get your thoughts on a Seahawks loss this past Sunday versus the Giants.
So I was at work during this game, so I didn't really get to watch a whole lot of it. It was on in the background, but I was looking at updates like throughout my work day when I had like a break or whatever, and it's just sad. It's just sad. We lost to Colt McCoy. Colt McCoy, who I think he won the Heisman when he played at Texas. I'm pretty positive. He might have been a Heisman winner. I can't remember for sure, but he was a stellar quarterback in college. But we lost to Colt McCoy, their backup. Daniel Jones didn't even play. And New York rushing, Wayne Gallman. I don't watch New York football. I don't know who Wayne Gallman is, but he had 135 rushing yards.
He's on my fantasy team.
Well, good for you, because he had a hell of a game on Sunday, dude. Good Lord. 135 yards. I mean, he doesn't have a touchdown, but how many points did he get you in fantasy this weekend?
It was 13 and a half. It was around 15.
That's it? I guess without touchdowns, that's what happens, right? I mean,
yeah.
If it's not PPR, then it's just based off yards.
It was still good. It was still a solid performance. So. I traded him for Zeke, who had 2.9. It was.
Fair enough. And DK and Tyler Lockett still had an all right game. DK with 80 yards, Tyler with 63. Just Russell Wilson throwing 1 for 1. His QB rating is 78, dude. Come on. Those are not Russell Wilson numbers. Throwing for 216 yards with 1 touchdown. Dude. It's gross. I can't believe we had a safety, bro. 5-0 at halftime was a ridiculously weird score. I'm sorry, but I'm just upset. We didn't play like the Seahawks. Russell, this is what happens when we play a team that's not as good as us. We play at their level. We don't play at Seattle level. We play at their level. And it is so frustrating. It is so frustrating.
Get it out.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm done. I feel a little better, but...
No, 5-0 is definitely a bad sign at half. In the second half, unable to really formulate any offense. I'm posting a video, and it's set to upload on my channel. I've already talked to you about the name, DJ Squabble on YouTube, at 8 o'clock tonight. And the video is about what is wrong with Russell Wilson. Because I think there is something seriously wrong with Russell Wilson right now. Actually, I have a list of things that I think are seriously wrong with Russell Wilson right now. And these include holding the ball in the pocket too long, not having enough trust in our wide receivers, not being decisive enough when we roll out. I want him to roll out earlier in the play clock. I want him to roll out immediately following the snap rather than waiting until there are pass rushers in places that he doesn't know where they're at. And I want him to be more decisive in throwing those 50-50 balls to DK and Tyler Lockett that he hasn't been throwing, so we haven't been completing anymore. Our guys win those, and he hasn't been throwing those. He's been holding it and getting sacked because of it. Astro, let's go to you. Let's get an outsider's perspective, a Steelers fan perspective on what's wrong with Russell Wilson and the Seahawks.
Yeah, I just want to complete Aaron's thoughts on Colt McCoy. Was not a Heisman, even though he probably could have been. He ended up, he lost in 08 to Sam Bradford, and he lost in 09 to Mark Ingram. But he was a finalist both times. And I think he had the record, because I remember talking about it in a show. Yeah, there were some studs in those Heisman races.
Yeah,
but,
dude, I remember.
Yeah, Tim Tebow was another name I saw in there too, but anyway, I think Colt McCoy had the record for most yards in a season until last year when Joe Burrow and those Tigers just totally torched everyone. Colt McCoy had a couple records for offense too, but he won everything else. He won the O'Brien Award, the Unitas Golden Arm Award. He was Offensive Player of the Year. He was a national champion at Texas. Those Longhorns were loaded with him. But yeah, he definitely didn't translate all of that to the NFL, as we've seen. 30 touchdowns, 28 interceptions for his career. And I was thinking of this, and you totally nailed it on the head. I think they kind of played down to their opponent's level, and I think that's a thing I'll talk about when the Steelers come up. They kind of played down to Washington in a sense, and I think that's exactly what happened with the Seahawks game. You would never imagine the Seahawks game or a Seahawks team with Russell Wilson, Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf only being able to put up 12 points against a sub 500 team, no less. And I think playing down to their opponent's level is just the only thing that I can think of that summarizes what happened here. It was just one of those off days, and everyone has off days, in any industry, in any job, that's just part of humanity, I think. And so I think Seahawks just need to move on. Take the fact that you have a winning record. You have DK Metcalf still on your team. You have Russell Wilson, who did make some mistakes, but you can go back at the film, look at that. But there's definitely a lot to improve, and
we're playing the Jets next week.
And you're playing the Jets next week, another New York football team that is not that great, as it turns out. I don't know if you guys have been keeping track. They have not won a game yet, and I'm really hoping that you guys aren't their first win, just for your sake.
Me too, bro.
That was so sad.
Yeah, we've got to talk about it.
I could feel that all the way from home. I don't want to see what that would do to you. Let's get the Seahawks a win next week. I don't need that happening to you, my man.
So our keys for this game have absolutely nothing to do with the New York Jets. They have everything to do with Seattle, because if Seattle plays a game even relatively hemispherically close to what Seattle is capable of, we should dominate this game against the New York Jets. Somehow the Jets were dominating the Raiders last week, who have just not only dropped off in my top 7 on the year, but dropped out of playoff contention if they keep playing like this over the past couple of weeks, getting blown out by the Falcons, and then they should have lost to the Jets. And some might say, well, for those of you who don't know, the Jets this past Sunday were winning the game. They run prevent defense with a couple of seconds left, and Derek Carr slings it down the field to Nelson Aguilar about 50 yards. Aguilar gets behind the defense. Derek Carr misses the pass. There's one more play left in regulation, and the Jets decide to blitz. All out, running cover 0. Henry Ruggs gets behind the DB. Derek Carr chucks the ball down the field. And the Jets remain winless on the season on the final play because they decided to get aggressive, which ended up getting their defensive coordinator fired. So, heading into this week, that is the momentum that we are playing against. Honestly, I feel like that might have been best case scenario for Adam Gase, because not only does he officially have a scapegoat by firing his defensive coordinator, but also has a chance at the first pick. While I don't think he'll be here for the first pick next year, I didn't think he'd be here at this point. And I don't think he should be here at this point. So there's a chance he could still be here for the first pick. And if that really happens and he just fired Greg Williams and made him the scapegoat, good for Adam Gase. But I do want to get your guys' thoughts on that kind of play, and then we'll talk about Jets versus Seattle. What did you make of that whole scenario and how that game ended? What should the Jets want at this point? Should they be trying to lose? Aaron.
Yes. If they're not already, dude, why would you blitz on a cover 0 when you have Derek Carr and Nelson Aguilar sitting out in the backfield? That's just so stupid. You do a cover 3 deep, on those Hail Mary plays. Where were the Raiders at when they threw the ball to? Was it Aguilar who cut? They were at the 50.
No, it was Henry Ruggs.
Excuse me.
Made the game winner.
Aguilar should have had the game winner the play before because the Jets were in prevent and he was still open in the end zone, but Derek Carr missed the throw.
So maybe they should have just done prevent again.
Yeah.
You're on the 50-yard line. There's what, 2 seconds left?
Yep.
You put everybody but 2 linemen in there, and you just shove them back because the Jets are garbage. And if they had a chance to win that game they were that close. Why would you blitz with 2 seconds left and you're on the 50-yard line? Just why? Just why?
Cost the man his job.
Dude. Yeah, it did. He deserved to get fired. That was garbage. Are you kidding me? It's not a good play decision by him. It's it's just...
Unless they're trying to lose like we were talking about.
There's no point in them winning anymore. That's it. They're 11 or 0 and 11. Excuse me, 11 now. 0 and 11. 0 and 12 now. 0 and 11.
0 and 11.
0 and 11. When's their bye week?
No, they would have had to already have it if they're 0 and 11.
Oh, okay. Well, then that's gonna be the only one they get.
Be 0 and 12 then.
Yeah.
Either way, they're 0 and
X.
0 and X, something like that.
Yeah.
That's it. Well, their bye week's the only one they're getting this year. So.
All right, Asher, let's get your reaction to the horrible call.
Yeah, I just it's kind of on par with what we've seen from the Jets. They've had very, very few highlights. No one's really talking about them, and for good reason. They're 0-11. At this point, I think it's just a matter of how much does the organization believe in Sam Darnold, because everyone has it on their minds. Okay, Jets are going for Trevor Lawrence at this point, and is Trevor Lawrence a better quarterback than Sam Darnold? At this point, I would probably tend to agree with that based on what I've seen from Lawrence and Clemson, and Darnold not being able to do a whole lot as a starter in New York. I want to give him the benefit of the doubt and think he might be able to come and turn around the organization. They definitely need to go and get a couple more weapons for him, improve offensive line. They need to make a lot of improvements, don't get me wrong. But I think going and getting Trevor Lawrence could definitely be one of those improvements, and then that'll give Sam Darnold a chance to prove himself as their starter, because he can be at that point, if they go get Trevor Lawrence, he'd be okay, I'm the guy, go let me prove that. And if he doesn't, then you have Trevor Lawrence as your backup who can come in. And we all know what Trevor Lawrence is capable of. We've seen what he can do at Clemson. And I honestly think I'd be astonished if Trevor Lawrence doesn't go number 1 overall next year. Absolutely astonished.
This is Kyler Murray, Josh Rosen, in a sense, except Trevor Lawrence is a better prospect. I would agree with that. Sam Darnold was a better prospect than Josh Rosen was. So very, very big implications. I want to bring this up, though, because let's not forget at the beginning of the season, you guys remember, Greg Williams came out and said when Jamal Adams got traded to Seattle, Jamal Adams is going to be bored in Seattle in our defensive scheme. And you remember how Pete Carroll responded. He responded by saying, well, I don't think he's going to be bored, but I know our defense doesn't get beat as much as Greg Williams. Well, at this point, I think Pete Carroll kind of won that little debacle, considering
just slightly
he still has a job at this point.
He's still a job, and he won a game. He's won at least a game.
At least one game.
At least.
But let's talk about our keys versus the Jets and what Seattle needs to do better in order to beat this New York team this week. Apparently, we can't take New York teams for granted. So first of all, I'm not going to forget about what happened last week against Philly, even though we won. Take the points. Stop going for it on fourth down, especially against the Jets. Why do we need to go again for it on fourth down against the Jets? If we have to go for it on fourth down against the Jets, it's because we're doing a myriad of other things wrong throughout the game. Unless it's fourth and like inches, and even then, I don't even know all the time. But typically, rule of thumb, take the points. Number 2, we need to convert 75% or better on third down. We have struggled drastically. Bottom 10, might even be bottom 5 in the league at this point in third down conversion percentage. We have been horrible all year long, and it ends drives for us offensively. We've got to convert on third down, especially against the worst team in the NFL. Finally, we need to win the turnover battle and the sack battle, 2 things that we lost last week. And if we're able to do that, there's no way that the Jets are going to beat us. But once again, if we're unable to do that, we're going to lose. Or there's a chance that we'll lose. We might win anyways because it's the Jets. But we're far more likely to lose. And the only way that we do lose is if those things go wrong for Seattle. So, once again, take the points, convert 75% or better, and don't make a whole bunch of mistakes like penalties, turnovers, and giving up sacks. Aaron, let's go to you. What are your keys for a Seahawks victory this week?
My first key, like you, is just take the points, dude. Just because off that game last week, you never know when we're going to need extra points like that. And so just kick the freaking field goal. Honest to God, it's getting so frustrating at this point. I just want them to get points and just get on the board somehow. And my second key, like I'm gonna look at 2 keys this week for both the Cougar game and Seattle game, is just to not play at the Jets level. And that should not be hard, and I should not be having to ask this. But after seeing how they played at the Giants, who are subpar of a football team, like one of you said earlier, they should not have any problem playing like the Seahawks team they are and just dominating the hell out of the Jets. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
A lot of people, I do want to get your thoughts on Seahawks versus Jets in just a moment, Asher, but a lot of people last week were saying that Seattle should blow out the Giants. I was not one of those people. There was a 10-point spread. I said we'll win by 8. And I think we're still a little bit disrespectful towards the Giants. The Giants are a good football team. Even though they're, 5-7 now at this point in the season, they were in a close game with Tampa Bay. They were in a close game with Pittsburgh. They beat Seattle in Seattle. They beat Washington twice. This is a decent football team, and I do believe they're the best team in that division, if not Washington. So, Asher, let's go to you. Let's get your keys to a Seahawks victory versus the New York Jets.
Yeah, before I forget, going back to the Raiders game, quick shout out to Darren Waller for giving me 45 points in fantasy this week. Holy cow, that was awesome. 200 yards and that many catches and 2 touchdowns. That's all I needed. Just wanted to say thank you very much to Darren Waller. Easy dubs this week. But anyway, like we were talking about earlier, don't play down to the level of the Jets. Seattle is clearly the better team, like top to bottom, front to back, no matter how you look at it. And the same thing could be said against the Giants, and I think playing down to their level kind of did have a big role in the game and why they lost. And so just don't do that to New York. But credit to the Giants, though. Them and Washington have 2 of the 3 longest active winning streaks in the NFL right now. So they're definitely improving every week. Like even with Washington beating Pittsburgh. To be fair, I kind of saw that coming. I was not surprised at all when I saw Washington beat the Steelers. I'll talk about that a little later, but to give credit to them, like they're definitely improving. 5-7 is not the best record in the world, but they've gotten a lot better since week 1 for sure. Like without Saquon Barkley too, like at 5-7 without Saquon Barkley, like just imagine where they'd be if he had not gotten hurt.
And if Daniel Jones was there.
And
backup quarterback and running back, and they win at Seattle. Says a lot, doesn't it?
And you're on top of your division. You got to give credit to them. They're definitely trying to make things work.
All right, so your keys for a Seahawks victory versus the Jets?
Just don't play down to the level of the Jets. And I think DK needs to get going. He was kind of held in check against a subpar secondary from the Giants, I think. So get him 100 yards. Make sure Russ doesn't do too much. The last play of the game, that Hail Mary, that's kind of what you have to do in that situation, but making better decisions so you don't have to be in a 4th and 18 Hail Mary situation, I think would be a really good key to coming away with a victory in New York.
Agreed. Now let's talk about something much, much less depressing For Seahawks fan.
Yes. So Asher, Noah and I have we've prepared a little something for you.
Oh, did you really?
We just a small little thing. So Noah, I'm just gonna start, and then you can do your thing. That sounds okay to you?
Oh, I know it. I know where this is going.
Asher.
I know.
Hold on. Wait. Hold on, Asher. Just.
Asher, it's in times like these that we must be there for each other. You went from having the number one team on a lot of people's power rankings, the last undefeated team in the league, favorites in all your remaining games on your schedule, favorites to win your division. Okay, you're still that.
I can't.
But then you played Washington, second place in the NFC East.
What was that? Went into this. Oh my god.
Poor Asher. Your team is no longer undefeated. Asher, we understand your pain. We had this 6 weeks ago.
Yeah, it's just so totally the same thing. It's just relatable and
yikes.
Yeah. So Asher, are you wearing black today?
No, but I'm writing. I chose ironically, my blue pen ran out of ink, and so I'm writing in black to highlight the L of the Steelers.
Is that dark blue? Apologies. You couldn't.
Nah, this is blue, but it has black highlights. I guess. I know they lost. Get over yourself.
Well, you couldn't wear black after the game. All right, Asher, let's go to you. Let's get your reaction to a truly depressing Steelers loss and to an undefeated season possibility.
So, like I said before, I'm honestly not surprised that this happened. I think we talked about it last week. Like, every game on the remaining schedule, including this Washington game, is a coin flip at this point, just because they've been so inconsistent. They can't run the ball. They still can't run the ball. Anthony McFarland was their leading rusher with 15-ish yards somewhere in there. Not what you want from the Steelers. I think we have a definitive defensive player of the year candidate in TJ Watt, though.
Yeah.
So that's one good thing to take away. He leads the league in sacks. I think he's tied for it. QB hits, pressures, all that. He's first. He leads the league. Even JJ Watt says he should be defensive player. I mean, I know that's his brother and there's some bias here, but the numbers do not lie. When you lead the league in all those categories, like, I think that should be rewarded. Okay. Because when JJ won defensive player of the year, he had similar numbers. TJ is beating JJ in all those categories from when JJ won Depoy. And so I think if TJ doesn't win it, I'd be astonished, even as a Steelers fan, like even just as a football fan, based on the numbers, he's got to win it. And that's honestly the one thing I took away from this game is I'm glad we drafted TJ Watt because the injuries are starting to pile up, and I think that shows. Having Bud Dupree and Devin Bush out for the year is so bad. And Joe Hayden got hurt, Anthony Spillane got hurt in the game, who's doing really good in place of Devin Bush, and the injury at some point injuries just start to catch up to you, and I think we saw that last night with the Steelers, and I'm just really upset. And credit to Washington, they've been getting a lot better. Chase Young is definitely one of the top defensive rookies this year. Him and Jeremy Chin from the Panthers have both just been playing lights out all year. I've been really impressed with him, and it makes me a little less sad, given that Alex Smith was their quarterback, coming from where he was a couple years ago to like nearly dying, and him being able to knock off the undefeated Steelers. Like, that storyline is just picture perfect to me. And so I want to give credit to him for being able to help complete that comeback. And
yeah,
one thing's for certain, he's comeback player of the year. Like, let's get one thing straight here. Yeah. He's got to be, absolutely, no doubt in my mind. And so that makes me a little bit less sad, but just kind of playing down to the level of your opponents, kind of like what the Seahawks did. Like, we've been talking about how great the Steelers defense is, and we did not really show that, even though TJ Watt is leading all these categories, and the Steelers are now tied for the NFL record with most consecutive games in a sack. I think they're at 69 right now, so they need to get a sack next week to have the record to themselves. But giving up that many points to a Washington team who was out without Antonio Gibson for most of it because of that toe injury, And with Ben Roethlisberger, who did not play very well, I think it's just too inconsistent, and that's been my biggest problem with the Steelers the last couple of years, just playing too inconsistently and just letting these bad teams kind of beat you around, kind of what Seattle did. And that's why I expected it. I don't think I called them losing to Washington per se, but every game is a coin flip at this point, and they still have the 1 seed, which is something to be proud of because their loss was out of conference, and that's one of the tiebreaker. That's the first tiebreaker for the Chiefs since they lost to the Raiders in their division. But they, like I said last week, Steelers have to win out at this point if they want to keep that 1 seed. Absolutely have to win out. No way Kansas City's going to lose another game in my mind.
They have a tough matchup at New Orleans. We'll see if it's Taysom Hill or Drew Brees in that game. But
that's
Aaron,
game of the year, in my opinion. I think that's going to be such an awesome game.
That's fair. It should be exciting. Aaron, let's go to you. Let's get your reaction with minus the music about a Steelers devastating, truly devastating loss.
It was. It was heartbreaking. Like I didn't watch the whole game. I watched probably until halftime. And I think Pittsburgh was up at halftime, right? They were up 14-3, and I was like, okay, and I had some other stuff to do that day or whatever, and so I went and did it. And Asher, I'm just sorry.
Hey, you and me both, brother.
You don't sound like it.
I'm feeling pretty sorry.
I'm not.
For those
I think I was waiting for this time to just kind of get Asher on the L train with us Seahawks fans, so he kind of finally understands what it was like.
Got my bags ready to go. I'm all aboard the L train now.
Hey, this goes for both of you. This goes for both of you, man. Leave the Seahawks out of this conversation, man. We're talking about the Steelers depression. Both of you keep mentioning the Seahawks, man. I just forgot.
I mean, seeing the Washington football team. Oh, by the way, that name is kind of growing on me a little bit. Like the Washington.
That's what I've thought too.
It's kind of getting there.
It's kind of like a soccer team almost, like some city football club, and it's just been super weird just because we've just been so used to them being what they were before they changed, and I wanted them. Okay, there's no way they actually stick with this like long term, right? But now that they've played with it for 12 weeks now, it's not the worst thing that I've come up with.
I kind of dig it.
Yeah, I do too. Like, would I like them to see come up with something else? Absolutely. But if they stick with it, I wouldn't be as mad as I normally would.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. And seeing, Logan Thomas for Washington pop up with 98 receiving yards and a touchdown, dude, he had a day. And I love Alex Smith throwing to him because I honestly think I've talked about this before. I'll say it again. Alex Smith deserves a 30 for 30 on his whole comeback story. Yeah. I think that would be a great film, and that would just I kind of have a little bit of chills right now thinking about how the comeback Alex Smith makes. It's like good for him. I'm so stoked to see somebody who's been a huge part of the game for football's been in his life forever, right? And he's a veteran at this point, and it's so good to see him start winning games again. I know 5-7, they still have a chance to quote unquote win out, but they got to win 8 more games, 8 more games to be even and to be above their winning record or something like that. Is that what it is? Oh no, I'm sorry, not 8 more games. I can't.
4 more.
Not 9-7.
9-7 is their best record.
Yeah. They got to win.
Unless week 18, in which case you never know with 2020. But
exactly.
9-7.
Right.
I think they could get to 9-7 the way they're playing.
I think it's possible. But I mean, and like you were saying earlier, Big Ben not playing amazing. I would agree. 33 out of 53 for completions and attempts.
That's the thing I forgot to totally mention. We're forcing Big Ben to throw it. He had 51 attempts last week, and forcing him to throw that much because you can't run the ball at all is not good. And that finally came to light against Washington. When you force him to do that, throw that much, it's just not good for anyone.
Farland had 15 rushing yards. That's not, dude. It's do you have any info on when your running back's gonna be back?
On Connor?
Yeah.
I think so. He was put on COVID. This weekend, I think, and so I think he should be eligible for their next game, and him coming back will be a really big boost, and him getting. And we're going to talk. I don't know if we're talking about keys to the next game yet or not, Noah. But him getting back and getting a run game going again is definitely a big key for me because 15 yards is not acceptable in any way.
It's not, and definitely James Conner being back would have been a game changer. I think it would have been.
He definitely has the capability of it, and he's been playing. He's been kind of down the last couple weeks, the last month, I'd argue, because a lot of people are talking about, okay, he's not really the guy, but he's got a really good potential, I think, not just as a Steelers fan, but like based on watching him and the things he's been able to come. He fought through cancer. He beat that. Like, he's a local Pittsburgh guy. Like, I think he's a perfect fit for Pittsburgh, and I definitely think he has the talent moving forward to be their guy. He just needs to step it up a little bit, and he's not alone in that. He's definitely not alone in that. There's a lot of guys that need to step up. We need to stop dropping the ball at Eric Ebron.
Deontay Johnson.
Yeah, just to name a couple guys. Dropping the ball is definitely not what we want from or for anyone for that matter. And if those drops don't happen, then there's definitely a different outcome in that game, I think.
And that Washington defensive line doesn't get enough praise. Come on. And their pass rush in general, just Ryan Kerrigan, Chase Young, Daron Payne, Montez Sweat, some of the names that they have, first rounders, guys that just scare you just to even see them across.
They're just big and physical for a defensive line, and I'll give them tons of credit. They've been making plays for a long time now, and the record doesn't show it. But yeah, they've definitely been making some really good plays, and I've been impressed with them, because after they drafted, or after Haskins kind of, when I was like, okay, Washington's probably not going to be very relevant, but they've won now 3 in a row, I think, and so they're definitely on the upswing. It's honestly interesting now, the NFC East between the Giants and Washington and maybe Philadelphia, depending how good Jalen Hurts is moving forward. It's kind of a interesting race to keep track of now.
It is, no question about it. I think the Giants have the edge right now, but we'll see who has the edge by the end of it. I do want to get to our seeding predictions, so we got to move things along real quick. Let's just go game by game real quick and talk about the Steelers' remaining schedule: at Buffalo, at Cincinnati, versus Indy, at Cleveland. I say you go 2-2 through this stretch. I say you lose to Buffalo and you lose to Cleveland because you'll be out of the 1 seed already. Kansas City will pretty much have it locked up, and Cleveland will need the game more at the end of the year. You'll be locked into the 2 seed essentially, so I don't think you'll have to worry about it. So I think you lose at Cleveland, at Buffalo. Asher, what games do you think you lose to that stretch?
I agree with you on the Buffalo game. I think that'll be pretty hard because Josh Allen is torching people right now. I was really impressed with what he did. I think he's kind of pushing himself up into the upper tier of the MVP conversation, I think, at this point. I think he's been really good. So I think they do lose at Buffalo. They definitely win at Cincinnati. I really hope it's not they don't play down to Cincy's level. We just need to go and blow them out again. I think they win at the Colts. I think Indianapolis has been a little inconsistent, just like us, but I think they'll be able to fix things by that game, and then I think they'll be able to beat the Browns. I'm not totally in on the Browns, but I am impressed with Baker being able to throw for 4 touchdowns in the first half. I do give him credit, but I don't think we're going to beat Steelers. Ben Roethlisberger just doesn't lose to the Browns historically. He's lost maybe 5 or 6 times, I think, in his career to Cleveland. I don't see that changing.
Aaron, let's go to you, and what games do you think of the remaining schedule: at Buffalo, at Cincy, versus Indy, at Cleveland? Do you have Pittsburgh losing?
I think the Steelers have the potential to go 4-0 in the stretch, but realistically, I think they lose to Buffalo just because coming off a hard loss to Washington like that, I think they're still going to be a little bit down on themselves. Like, obviously, they're going to want to win super badly. But like you said, Josh Allen's up into the MVP conversation right now. I think he's going to light up the Steelers' defense, and especially because you're going to Buffalo.
I think you touchdowns.
I think you destroy the Colts and the Bengals, and like the only close games are going to be between the Bills and the Browns. But I think you can beat the Browns, but the Bills, Josh Allen's just going to destroy you guys.
I don't want to agree with you, but I kind of have to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, let's advance now. Let's talk about our NFL playoff predictions. Only a couple of minutes left in today's show, about 5, so we're going to be a little bit snappy with it. AFC, top to bottom, I'd say the number 1 seed, Kansas City. Are we in agreement? Does Kansas City get the number 1 seed, or does Pittsburgh hold on? We all have Pittsburgh losing to Buffalo, so
I'll put KC at 1.
All right, at 2 then, obviously Pittsburgh for everyone?
Yep.
All right, 3 goes Buffalo?
Yep.
Okay. 4, Tennessee?
Yep. Correct.
Okay, so
Tennessee's a tough one because they just lost to Cleveland. I feel like if Cleveland can win a couple more games, I think they could beat Tennessee. I think it's either them or Tennessee, though.
No, because it's the first 4 division champions.
Oh, it would be. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
So they would get I think they could get the 5 seed then. So yeah, it would be Tennessee. You're right.
Okay, but then that leads to the rematch of that historically bad game for Tennessee and historically good game for Cleveland. In the wild card round with the 4-5 matchup, because I have Cleveland 5th seed. Asher agrees. Aaron, where do you stand?
I got Cleveland at 5th as well.
Okay, I love to see it. 6th, Baltimore. Controversial. They're on a cold stretch.
I got Miami at 6.
Ooh,
So do I. Yeah.
I like that a lot.
So do I.
Miami, they're a top 3 defense right now. Incredible what they're doing. But I do have Baltimore turning it around and arriving as the 6th seed. And then as the 7th seed, who do you guys got? Aaron, I gotta hear it.
Just going through my weeks, I got Indy somehow numbered 1 out 10 and 6. Yeah, just as a 7th seed. So I think that's somewhat reasonable.
I arrived at that conclusion too. I got Indianapolis. I think they'll figure it out. I think Baltimore is winning right now, and that's not hard to do against the Cowboys. They were up 17-10 at halftime. Lamar had a passing touchdown and a rushing touchdown. And yeah, it's still 17-10. So I think they'll win tonight, but I think Colts will beat them for that last spot.
I do think Colts make it in the playoffs, but I think they knock out Miami and not Indy, or excuse me, not Baltimore. But Miami's been playing great ball. Good for them. I would love to see them make it, but I don't think that they do. Now, on the NFC side of things, the number 1 seed, ladies and gentlemen, the New Orleans Saints. Are we all in agreement?
Yep.
Actually, wait, before you go, I don't have the New Orleans Saints at number 1. I have them, from the games I picked, I have Green Bay at number 1. But I'm starting to realize that that's a mistake, because I feel like today. Oh no, it's not a mistake, because I have Kansas City beating New Orleans in Week 15, so that's why they are number 2.
Is that okay? Okay. I have New Orleans number 1. I have Green Bay number 2 because I have Green Bay losing to Tennessee at home because they can't stop the run at all, and Tennessee is going to run the ball down their throat, in my opinion. But I have Green Bay number 2 in my playoff bracket. Asher, who's your number 2 in the NFC?
I got Green Bay. I think Rodgers and Devontae Adams is good enough for 2 seed. I would go that far.
Aaron?
New Orleans, my number 2.
3 Seattle, everybody?
Yep.
I got the Rams.
That's fair.
I got
the Rams, bro. The Rams. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
That's fighting words. No. Honestly, that almost works out better for Seattle. I'd rather have a rematch with the Giants than play Tampa at home. To be honest, I'd almost rather go to New York. But we'll talk about that later. I have New York.
You have New York at 4. I got Washington at 4. I have more.
So do I.
I think.
So do I. So
two Washingtons and a Giant. 5th seed LA for myself and Aaron, I'm assuming. Asher, do you have Seattle?
Yeah, I have them at 6 though. I got Tampa Bay at 5.
Tampa at 5, Seattle at 6. That puts Seattle at the Rams in the first round. And then 7th seed, I have Arizona scraping it together. Who do you guys got?
Okay, first off, my 6 is Tampa.
Okay.
So I have Tampa playing Seattle, and then my 7th is also Arizona at New Orleans.
Okay, Asher, 7th seed.
I think there have been a couple teams like the Niners and the Cardinals and the Vikings who have been kind of down. But if any of those teams gets it together to lock up a 7th seed, I think it's Arizona.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is our playoff predictions for this year's NFL playoffs. Next week, hopefully, we can go in and predict who advances round by round all the way to the Super Bowl. Thank you guys for watching once again. I'm your host, Noah Bolter. You can find me on social media at DJSQUABO on Instagram and on YouTube. Aaron, would you like to shout out where people can find you?
At Aaron Monson on Instagram, at Aaron__Monson on Twitter, at Aaron Monson on TikTok. Shoot me a follow on all those, and I might follow you back.
Asher, where can we find you?
Just look up Asher Line. That's usually my handle on most things. And also, before we go, be sure to tune into KUGR. They're calling the Idaho basketball game tomorrow. We're finally getting back into basketball. Super excited. We're getting into the Cal game too. So be sure to tune in, everyone, and we'll go from there.
Let's go.
Very, very exciting stuff moving forward. As always, this is your home for Cougar and Seahawks football on YouTube and on KUGR Radio, Unorthodox Sports.